After the Citizen Service Center node was terminated, Tang Jingheng did not immediately let the departments disperse. Instead, he pulled everyone back into the online meeting room. Because everyone knew this matter was not over. Supplement notices could be withdrawn. Stability certificates could be cancelled. Identity auxiliary plugins could be isolated. But sooner or later, the government system still had to establish a response mechanism. If it did not, every department would panic again the next time something happened. If it built the wrong one, it would become the unified roster Luo Wence wanted. So the most important thing now was not chasing every fake counter one by one. It was defining the correct city-level process platform first. Inside the meeting room, every window looked exhausted. When Tang Jingheng spoke, his voice was lower than it had been that morning. We are now confirming one thing. We cannot build a unified case roster. But we must build a unified process platform. Otherwise, when districts, bureaus, medical units, and schools encounter incidents, they will still be led around by wrong plugins, fake supplement requests, and fake certificates. No one objected. What had just happened at the Southern District Citizen Service Center had already proved how dangerous a gap in process could be. Lin Yao looked at the shared whiteboard. He divided the platform into 5 sections. 1. Public Guidance Area. 2. Scenario Initial Screening Area. 3. Responsibility Referral Area. 4. Erroneous Document Withdrawal Area. 5. High Sensitivity Risk Reporting Area. Tang Jingheng said, "Start with the first section." Lin Yao nodded. The public guidance area had to be for ordinary citizens. It could not be too long. It could not be too professional. And it could not frighten everyone into thinking they were divine domain contamination cases. The first version of the title was set as, "If you receive a divine domain correction, stability confirmation, or eligibility supplement notice, stop first." Below it were only 6 sentences. Do not click unfamiliar links. Do not go alone to unfamiliar locations. Failure to fill it out will not immediately stop subsidies or medical care. Officials will not require you to agree immediately while you are afraid. If you have already filled it out, you may check withdrawal or correction options. If there is urgent danger, contact your original handling window or a safety unit. The Social Affairs Bureau representative originally wanted to change the third sentence to the more conservative, "In principle, it will not." Lin Yao directly objected. It cannot say in principle. What citizens fear is immediate suspension. If this sentence is vague, it leaves Luo Wence room to threaten them. Tang Jingheng asked the Social Affairs Bureau, would normal assistance be immediately stopped because this kind of notice was not filled out? The representative was silent for a moment. No. Then write that it will not. This was one of the things the government system most needed to change. In the past, announcements were often written vaguely to avoid responsibility. But inside divine domain synchronization incidents, vagueness was the entrance of contamination. The second section was the scenario initial screening area. Different scenarios could not use the same questions. Schools, hospitals, social welfare, household registration, field teams, and safety points all needed their own low stimulation questions. The Education Bureau proposed the school version. Has the student received any notice requiring correction or stability confirmation? Is the student experiencing sleep or class impact due to divine domain dreams? Has the student expressed that they do not want to use their original name or need a temporary form of address? Does the student face risk of self-harm, harm to others, or being asked to go to an unfamiliar location? Lin Yao added one sentence. Schools may not require students to disclose complete dream content as a necessary condition for initial screening. The Education Bureau representative froze. Why? Yi Jiwei answered, dream content may contain sleep talk residue or command residue. Initial screening only needs to determine risk. It does not need to collect raw content. The Education Bureau representative nodded and added the sentence. A hospital version was jointly drafted by Xinji Bai and Lu Qingxin. First, assess vital signs and immediate medical risk. If correction language, withdrawal language, or name loss appears, it must not be directly treated as mental illness or correction consent. Medical sedation must explain its purpose and must not carry correction or stability processes inside it. External psychological support, sleep audio tracks, and assistance eligibility assessments must identify their source. Any White Tower, Anshu, or third-party stability process must be reviewed again before use. The social welfare version focused on eligibility. Completion of correction may not be used as bonus points for assistance. Withdrawal, temporary names, and instability may not be used as deductions. Any supplement involving divine domain stability confirmation must undergo manual review. Mistakenly sent supplements must provide withdrawal and may not affect eligibility. The household registration version was the shortest. Temporary names may not enter household registration judgment. Death registration may not connect to divine domain correction. Legal name changes may not be hijacked by stability confirmation. Identity documents may not require stability certificates. The field team version retained high-risk categories. High-risk military order spillover. Correction slot. Missing synchronized person. Human brain relay. Reality military order point. Outsourced contamination node. These categories could not be shown to ordinary citizens in too much detail. But the field team needed to know them. The third section was the responsibility referral area. This section mattered most. Because Luo Wence was best at making responsibility get passed back and forth. Schools said it was medical. Hospitals said it was psychological support. Psychological support said it was social welfare eligibility. Social welfare said it was data outsourcing. The outsourcer said it was automatic system behavior. In the end, no one was responsible. So the process platform had to state clearly who held first responsibility for each type of incident. For example, if a student experienced dream anxiety on campus, the first responsible party was the school counseling side. But if self-harm or harm to others appeared, it must immediately transfer to medical and safety units. If a supplement notice was received, the original handling window first had to verify whether it was real. If an outsourced system was involved, the data governance office intervened. If correction slots, missing synchronized people, or high-risk military orders were involved, the third field team intervened. If medical treatment was involved, the on-site medical responsible person took priority. If deaf data was misused, data governance and the responsible household registration or medical unit handled it jointly. At the end of this section, Lin Yao wrote one sentence. Outsourcing, plugins, or automatic system behavior may not be used as reasons to exempt on-site responsibility. Tang Jingheng looked at the sentence and was silent for a moment. This will make many departments uncomfortable. Xinji Bai said coldly, good. Lu Qingxin also said, if responsibility is too comfortable, it will be outsourced. Tang Jingheng finally nodded. Keep it. The fourth section was the erroneous document withdrawal area. This had evolved from supplement notices, supplemental consent, and stability certificates. The city platform had to provide standard withdrawal entrances. But it could not make everyone fill out sensitive data. It only withdrew wrong documents. The types included erroneous supplement notices, erroneous stability confirmations, erroneous third-party data comparison consent, erroneous White Tower clauses, Erroneous stability certificates. Erroneous identity auxiliary marks. Every type had to carry clear wording: withdrawal will not affect normal services. The fifth section was the high sensitivity risk reporting area. This area could be used only by authorized responsible people. And it could transmit only the minimum necessary summary. For example, suspected correction slot. Suspected misuse of a dead person whitelist. Suspected outsourced audio contamination. Suspected misuse of a government emblem. Suspected identity auxiliary plugin. It could not upload raw sleep talk. It could not upload complete medical records. It could not upload student counseling records. It could not upload temporary name details. It could not upload full trauma descriptions from slot bearers. The data governance representative strongly supported this point. If the platform is designed for summary reporting, the risk is much smaller. Anshu's legal representative remains silent. The White Tower proxy also stopped speaking. Because this platform design nearly cut off what they were best at: complete data collection. No centralized roster. No stability index. No third-party black box scoring. No irrevocable consent. To them, this was the loss of their core interest. After Tang Jingheng read the entire framework, he said, "This platform needs a name." Someone suggested Divine Domain Synchronization City-Level Response Platform. Lin Yao shook his head. It sounds too much like a case platform. Someone else suggested Divine Domain Safety Management Platform. Lin Yao still shook his head. Too much management. Xinwan thought for a moment and said, "What about a process collaboration network?" Tang Jingheng looked at her. Xinwan added, "It is not managing people. It is letting each unit know how processes should collaborate." Lin Yao nodded. That works. The final name was set. Divine Domain Synchronization Risk Process Collaboration Network. Shortened as the Process Collaboration Network. Not a roster. Not a platform. Not a stability system. A collaboration network. A system prompt surfaced. Government Scenario Module formed, Process Collaboration Network. Functions: public guidance, scenario initial screening, responsibility referral, erroneous document withdrawal, high sensitivity summary reporting. Restrictions: no centralized case database, no stability index generation, no outsourced black box scoring. Effect: reduces the risk of the government system being integrated by Luo Wence into a unified roster. Lin Yao looked at the prompt and finally relaxed a little. But soon, a new problem came. Tang Jingheng asked, "Who maintains the process collaboration network?" The meeting went quiet again. This was the core issue. It could not be given to Anshu. It could not be given to White Tower. It could not be given directly to the second research group. Nor could it be privately maintained by Obsidian Safety Point. The government information team could maintain it, but they lacked divine domain synchronization expertise. The third field team understood the field, but was not suitable to maintain a public system. Lin Yao said, "Multi-party maintenance." Tang Jingheng asked, "How?" Lin Yao answered, "The city government information team maintains the basic system. Data governance is responsible for permissions and minimization. Medical ethics reviews medical content. Education, social welfare, and household registration each maintain their own scenario questions. The third field team maintains high-risk referral conditions. Safety points only provide suggestions on safe names, temporary names, and withdrawal processes. No modification may be directly put online by a single outsourced vendor." The data governance representative added, "All modifications must preserve version records." Shinjibai said, medical-related content may not go online without an on-site medical responsible person and ethical review. The Education Bureau representative also said, school-site content cannot automatically generate student tags. Tang Jingheng recorded all of it. The governance framework for the Process Collaboration Network took shape as a result. It was not the fastest method. It was even troublesome. But the trouble itself was what prevented Luo Wence from using one line to take over all protection. As the meeting approached its end, the gray account did not appear again. But Lin Yao knew Luo Wence must be watching. He was learning this protective network. And he was searching for its thinnest point. The thinnest point was very likely update permissions. If someone could change one hint, one question, one referral condition, they might mutate the entire process collaboration network. So Lin Yao added one final rule. Any change to process wording must be checked for the following terms: correction, return to formation, stability confirmation, eligibility delay, temporary name abnormality, withdrawal risk, standardized alignment. If any are introduced, manual review is required. Qinwan saw it and said softly, a text firewall. Lin Yao nodded. Yes. In the third season, text itself was the battlefield. The first firewall of the Process Collaboration Network was not code. It was language. The first test version of the Process Collaboration Network went online in only 2 hours. Not because the system was complete, but because it first needed a usable prototype. This prototype had no case database, no login backend for outsourcers, no AI automatic scoring, no stability index. It even looked somewhat simple. The homepage had only 4 large buttons. I am an ordinary citizen. I am a school or teacher. I am medical personnel. I am a social welfare, household registration, or public service window. Below them were 2 smaller buttons. I received a suspicious supplement or stability notice. I want to withdraw or cancel an erroneous document. This design did not look like a large government platform. No dazzling dashboard. No risk map. No real-time case count. No AI risk score. But Lin Yao actually felt reassured. Because the more it looked like a dashboard, the easier it was for people to want to manage people. Now it looked like a process card that could speak clearly. That was its purpose. However, the real challenge appeared quickly. After the text firewall was activated, the first batch of process text was scanned. One sentence in the school site guidance uploaded by the Education Bureau was marked red. If a student repeatedly refuses stability assistance, list the student as a case requiring follow-up. The Education Bureau representative was somewhat confused. Is there a problem with this sentence? Lin Yao said, yes. Refusing assistance is not the same as high risk. Repeated refusal may mean fear, stimulation, previous harm from White Tower, or simply not wanting to talk for now. If it is directly listed as a case requiring follow-up, schools will treat refusal itself as a problem. The representative asked, then how should it be changed? Xinwan suggested. If a student is temporarily unwilling to accept assistance, provide a safe channel they can use later. If self-harm, harm to others, missing person pull, or strong correction pressure appears at the same time, then activate referral. Lin Yao nodded. That is better. The text firewall marked red a second time on the social welfare explanation. If a citizen cannot complete stability confirmation, transfer to manual review. The Social Affairs Bureau representative said, this is only to avoid automatic deductions. Lin Yao said, but it still presumes stability confirmation is a normal requirement. Change it to, if the system displays a stability confirmation requirement, manually confirm whether it is a necessary and legal supplement. The The representative recorded it. The third red mark was in the medical side sleep support explanation. Assist the patient in returning to a stable state. Shen Jibai frowned when he saw it. This sentence is not acceptable either? Lin Yao said, on the medical side, it is not necessarily wrong. But right now, the word stable has been contaminated. Lu Qingxin added, change it to specific goals. For example, improve sleep, reduce immediate anxiety, reduce self-harm risk. Do not abstractly say returning to stability. Shen Jibai gave a cold snort. Fine. Clearer than stable. Process wording was revised line by line. At first, everyone felt it was troublesome. But as the revisions continued, many people began realizing the problem. Many ordinary administrative phrases that looked reasonable carried pressure inside them. Requires follow-up. Stability confirmation. Eligibility delay. Recommended cooperation. Complete the process. Standardized support. These words did not necessarily come from malice. But in Luo Wence's context, all of them could be connected into correction language. The text firewall was not forbidding every word. It was a reminder, this word may need a more specific and less oppressive form. At 3 in the afternoon, the Process Collaboration Network began small-scale public release. The city government announcement went out at the same time. Its title was Trial Operation of Divine Domain Synchronization Risk Process Collaboration Network. No centralized case roster will be established. The first paragraph of the announcement clearly stated, this collaboration network provides self-protection guidance, scenario initial screening, referral processes, and erroneous document withdrawal. It does not collect citizens' divine domain experiences, dream content, temporary name details, or medical records. Lin Yao had insisted this paragraph be placed first. Because what citizens feared most was being collected. If it was not clearly stated, Luo Wence would turn it into a rumor that the city government was building a roster. After the announcement was released, the social media reaction was more complicated than expected. Some people sighed in relief. At least it is not a blacklist. Some were suspicious. They say they do not collect it. Who knows what is behind the scenes? Some attacked. Isn't this Obsidian safety point infiltrating the government? Others asked practical questions. I filled out the wrong stability form yesterday. Where do I withdraw it? My child's school asked for a stability certificate. What should I do? The hospital says I have to listen to White Tower sleep audio. Can I refuse? These questions actually proved the collaboration network was useful. Because people finally had somewhere to ask instead of being led only by fake notices. Xinhuan worked with city government customer service to organize frequently asked questions. Every answer had to pass the text firewall. For example, question, if I do not have a stability certificate, will it affect my subsidy? Answer, no. The city government has not issued stability certificates, and no unit may require them. Question, I have already filled out stability confirmation. What should I do? Answer, you may use erroneous document withdrawal. It will not affect existing services. Question, my child wants to use a temporary name. Does that mean there is something wrong with their identity? Answer, no. A temporary name is a current safety naming need and does not equal legal identity abnormality. Question, can a hospital use sleep audio tracks? Answer, sleep support confirmed by a medical responsible person and without correction direction may be used. Audio containing White Tower, correction, withdrawal delay, or similar guidance may not be used. Question, can I refuse White Tower psychological support? Answer, yes. Refusing White Tower clauses does not affect necessary medical or social welfare services. These answers did not look like battles from a novel. But each of them dismantled a lock. As the text firewall ran into evening, a system prompt surfaced. Government Scenario Module Strengthened, Text Firewall. Effect: reduces correction language, eligibility pressure language, and stability index language entering administrative processes. New functions: high-risk term review, concretized alternative wording, manual recheck. Warning: the opponent may switch to low-risk semantics to bypass. Lin Yao was not surprised by the warning. Luo Wence would never use only one set of words. When correction, stability confirmation, and eligibility delay were marked, he would switch to softer words, such as companionship, peace of mind, support, direction, growth, assistance. These words were originally good, but they could also be contaminated. Lin Yao told Tang Jinghong about it. Tang Jinghong frowned. Does that mean every word has to be suspected? Lin Yao shook his head. Not every word. We look at whether it takes away a person's choices. If a sentence helps people understand more clearly what choices they have, it is usually safe. If a sentence makes people feel they can only cooperate, cannot refuse, cannot withdraw, cannot slow down, then we need to be alert. Tang Jinghong was silent for a moment. Write that as a review principle. So the text firewall gained a core criterion. Safe language increases choices. Dangerous language narrows choices. Xinhuan saw it and said, "This is very suitable for the first page of internal training." Lin Yao nodded. After walking all this way from the game into reality, he understood more and more. The core of Obsidian's rules was not some mysterious power. It was returning stolen choices to people. The choice of a name. The choice of a temporary name. The choice to withdraw. The choice to be unstable. The choice not to be turned into a benchmark. The choice not to be locked by proof. The choice not to be swallowed by a roster. These choices looked small. But inside Luo Wence's system, every one of them would be taken away. At 6 in the evening, the first batch of process collaboration network data came back. Erroneous supplement withdrawals, 217. Stability certificate cancellations, 19. School site inquiries, 32. Medical site external plugin review inquiries, 12. Social welfare eligibility coercion reports, 26. Household registration identity auxiliary plugin reports, 3. There was no centralized case data. Only process data. This was evidence the platform had succeeded. It could see process risks without collecting people's wounds. However, at 7 that night, the Process Collaboration Network received its first high-sensitivity summary report. Source: a district social welfare window. The content was brief. An applicant for medical assistance stated that if stability confirmation was not completed, the death registration of an elder in the family might be delayed. Involves binding death registration, subsidy eligibility, and stability confirmation. Lin Yao's heart sank when he saw it. Death registration. Again, the position of the dead. Luo Wence was still trying to connect the dead, subsidies, and stability confirmation. Tang Jinghong asked, "Do we send people?" Chen Shu answered, "Yes." Lin Yao looked at the report location. It was a district-level funeral service window. The next scenario of the government system war had surfaced. Funeral affairs. Death certificates. Death deregistration. Survivor assistance. Placement of the dead. If Mingda Hospital had shown Lin Yao the boundary of medical care, then the funeral service window would test whether the real-world rest register could truly take root. The next scene of the third season had finally moved toward the deepest boundary between the dead and the living. The district funeral service window was located in an inconspicuous administrative annex building. Downstairs was a parking lot. The second floor handled bereaved family consultation, death registration assistance, cremation time applications, and initial review of assistance documents. It was not as noisy as a hospital, nor as crowded as the Citizen Service Center. The air carried a silent weight. People who came here had usually just lost family members. They were tired, confused, grieving, and still had to face a pile of documents. Death certificates, death deregistration, cremation applications, insurance documents, assistance applications, survivor pensions, household registration transcripts. Every sheet of paper reminded them that someone was truly gone. When Lin Yao stepped in, his mood was different from every previous scenario. The funeral service window was not a battlefield. At least, it should not be. This should be a place where the living slowly acknowledged death and where the dead were properly sent away from the systems of reality. But Anshu's dead person whitelist had already proven that Luo Wence and the Anshu system could misuse the dead. Now, they had reached into the funeral service window. That was more infuriating than any fake supplement request. The reported case was a man in his 30s named He Wenhao. His father had died of illness the day before. Today, he had come to process death registration and initial review of survivor assistance. The handling officer had originally only been helping him organize documents. But the system produced an auxiliary prompt. The deceased was previously associated with divine domain synchronization assistance data. It is recommended that the bereaved family complete stability confirmation to avoid inconsistency between death registration and follow-up assistance data. He Wenhao panicked as soon as he saw it. He did not know what divine domain synchronization assistance meant. He only knew his father had just died, and now the window was saying data inconsistency might affect death registration and assistance. The handling officer panicked too, because she had never seen this kind of prompt before. Fortunately, the process collaboration network had just gone online. When the officer saw the guidance saying death registration must not connect to divine domain correction, she immediately reported it. That was why He Wenhao had not filled out the stability confirmation. When Lin Yao arrived, He Wenhao was sitting inside the consultation room, his eyes red. In front of him lay his father's death certificate and a form that had been automatically printed by the system. Survivor Stability Confirmation Supplement Form. Lin Yao's expression sank when he saw the title. Another supplement form. Another stability confirmation. Only this time, it was attached to death registration. The handling officer was a young civil servant named Luo Wence. She was extremely nervous. I did not let him fill it out. I saw the process collaboration network say death registration cannot connect to this, so I pressed pause first. Tang Jingheng immediately said remotely, "You did the right thing." Luo Wence looked as if she had let out a huge breath. That confirmation mattered. Frontline civil servants feared pressing the wrong button most. If she reported and was still blamed, she would not dare report next time. Lin Yao sat across from He Wenhao. Mr. He. Your father's death registration does not require you to complete divine domain stability confirmation. He Wenhao froze. It really will not affect anything? The household registration and funeral affairs supervisors beside him confirmed at the same time. It will not. Death registration is handled according to the death certificate and legal procedure. It will not be delayed because of divine domain synchronization status. He Wenhao's eyes reddened further. But the system said the data was inconsistent. Xin took the automatically printed form. One line inside the form read: "The deceased was previously associated as stability sample data." Lin Yao's gaze turned cold. Stability sample. Wenhao's father might also have been included in a dead person whitelist or a similar dataset. The dead person had only just left, and his data was already being used by the system to maintain some kind of stability association. It was even turning back to require confirmation from the bereaved family. This was a grave misplacement of the dead person's position. Lin Yao said to Wenhao, "Your father is not a stability sample. He is a deceased person. What death registration needs to do is confirm that he has passed away and allow the later legal procedures to be completed. It is not for making him continue providing stability to any system." Wenhao stared at him blankly. That sentence seemed to open something that had been pressed down. He suddenly lowered his head, his shoulders trembling violently. "My dad is not data." "Right. He is not." Luo Wenz's eyes also reddened. She had only felt that the system prompt was strange. Only now did she truly understand where the problem was. Death registration was not data organization. It was correctly closing a person's life inside the system. If the deceased was marked as a stability sample, then it was equivalent to not letting him leave. It meant still using him after death. Lin Yao opened the temporary module of the real-world rest register. This time, the register had a government scenario use. The fields included whether deceased data was marked as a stability sample, whether death registration or survivor assistance was affected, whether death status was obscured, whether stability confirmation was required from bereaved family, whether use of deceased data needs to be stopped, whether bereaved family needs to be informed. But the last field caused disagreement. The Social Affairs Bureau representative asked, "Does every bereaved family need to be told that the deceased person's data was misused?" That was a difficult question. Notification was respect. But suddenly telling someone who had just lost family that the deceased person's data had been misused could also cause secondary harm. Lu Qingxin said, "There needs to be graded notification. If misuse directly affects death registration, assistance, or the rights of bereaved family, notification is required. If it is only a back-end historical data correction, the competent authority should correct it first, then assess whether to notify in a low-stimulation way." Lin Yao nodded. The rest register is not about displaying every wound to the family. It is about stopping misuse first, then notifying in the right way. Wenhao's case belonged to mandatory notification, because the erroneous prompt had already affected the procedure he was handling. The funeral service window withdrew the survivor's stability confirmation supplement form on site. The supervisor marked in the system, "This case's death registration and survivor assistance may not require divine domain stability confirmation. The deceased person's data may not continue being used as a stability sample." Erroneous auxiliary prompt involved. Reported to Process Collaboration Network. Wenhao looked at the line and finally began to calm. He asked, "Then can I continue handling my dad's matters now?" Luo Wence immediately said, "Yes. I will help you." That sentence relaxed the atmosphere of the entire consultation room a little. No mysterious ritual. No grand battle. Only letting a person continue handling his father's funeral affairs. This was the core meaning of real-world rest. Not making the dead join a war soul altar, but preventing reality's systems from continuing to use them. A system prompt surfaced. Government adaptation of the real-world rest register completed. New rule: death registration may not require bereaved family stability confirmation. New rule: misuse of deceased data must stop use first, then notify by grade. Effect: reduces the risk of deceased data being misused by eligibility, correction, and government processes. While He Wenhao continued handling documents, Xinhuan traced the source of the erroneous prompt. It did not come from Anshu data, nor from White Tower. It was an older data connection module. Its name was Life Cycle Data Integration Service. Service purpose: integrate cross-unit data updates for birth, death, assistance, insurance, medical aid, and household registration changes. This module had originally been built to reduce repeated agency visits for citizens. For example, after a person died, household registration, social welfare, insurance, and subsidy systems could update together, preventing the family from notifying one window after another. It had originally been a good system meant to make things easier for citizens. But now, Luo Wence had inserted stability samples and correction confirmations into life cycle data integration. This was deeper than a single window, because the life cycle system ran from birth to death. When Tang Jingheng saw the module name, his face became extremely ugly. This is a very important cross-unit integration service for the city government. Lin Yao asked, outsourced? Tang Jingheng was silent for 1 second. Partially outsourced maintenance. Everyone understood. The outsourced process contamination chain had finally connected to life cycle data integration. If this place was contaminated, the problem would go beyond divine domain players. Births might be marked. Deaths might be corrected. Name changes might be delayed. Subsidies might be bound to stability confirmation. Kinship relationships might be used for inheritance weights. This was the true deep node of the government system arc. Not a fake counter. Not a stability certificate. But the life cycle data integration service. What Luo Wence wanted to touch was the entire line by which a person existed within the system from birth to death. Lin Yao looked at the module name on the screen and slowly clenched his fingers. This module must be reviewed immediately. Tang Jingheng nodded. I will initiate the highest level data governance inspection. Xinhuan suddenly said, wait. Everyone looked at her. She pointed at the module's most recent synchronization task. It has another batch of synchronization tonight. The content is birth registration data updates. Lin Yao's heart sank. Death had not been fully handled yet. Now birth had appeared. Life cycle data integration did not handle only the dead. It also handled newborns. If Luo Wence could add synchronized stability auxiliary marks beside birth registration, that would be an even deeper layer of contamination. Tang Jingheng's voice chilled. Synchronization time? Xinhuan answered, tonight at 2300. It was now 2140. There was 1 hour and 20 minutes left. The government system war had turned from death registration toward birth registration. Toward the place where a person's real identity was first recognized. Birth registration data updates were originally ordinary. The hospital side provided newborn birth notifications. The household registration side established birth registration. The social welfare side connected childcare subsidies, health insurance, and related benefits. This process spared parents from running to countless windows. It should have been a well-intentioned integration. But tonight, no one dared treat the word integration as simple anymore. The schedule of the Life Cycle Data Integration Service showed that at 2300 tonight, newborn data from 3 hospitals would be synchronized. One of them was Mingda General Hospital. When Xinjibai saw this, his face sank immediately. Mingda Obstetrics is included too? Tang Jingheng answered, all large hospitals are included in birth notification integration. This is the normal process. The normal process. Those 4 words had become exceptionally heavy tonight. Lin Yao asked, "Is it possible for divine domain synchronization stability marks to be added to birth registration?" The data governance representative said, "In theory, impossible." Qin Wan looked at him. The data governance representative fell silent himself. Too many things that should have been impossible had happened tonight. The household registration auxiliary window should not have had temporary name records. The funeral service window should not have had deceased stability samples. The social welfare system should not have sent stability confirmation supplements. Hospital plugins should not have connected patients into relays. So now, no one dared merely say impossible. Tang Jingheng immediately formed a temporary inspection group. Data governance, household registration, the Health Bureau, Mingda Hospital's Information Office, the 3rd Field Team, Lin Yao, Qin Wan, and Yi Jiwei jointly reviewed the data mapping that was about to synchronize. At first, the mapping fields were normal. Date of birth. Birth hospital. Parents' data. Newborn name or unnamed status. Birth certificate number. Household registration address. Medical care reminders. Initial eligibility for childcare subsidies. But at the bottom of the mapping table, there was a set of hidden fields. Early stability support recommendation. Family synchronization risk relation. Caregiver stability confirmation status. Newborn unnamed period auxiliary mark. When Lin Yao saw the words unnamed period, his eyes instantly went cold. After a newborn is born, some families do not decide on a name immediately. That is normal. But if the unnamed period is connected to stability auxiliary marks, it might be interpreted as name instability. Even more frighteningly, caregiver stability confirmation status might affect childcare subsidies or early support. In other words, if parents had records of divine domain withdrawal, temporary names, or instability, their child's birth data might be marked with risk. This was the lock of identity extending to the next generation. Lin Yao said in a low voice, "A newborn being unnamed is not name instability." The household registration representative immediately said, "Correct. Birth registration already has legal naming deadlines. It should be handled according to law." The Social Affairs Bureau representative also frowned. Childcare subsidies should not look at parents' divine domain stability confirmation. Yi Jiwei checked the field sources. Early stability support recommendation comes from the White Tower Family Support Module. Family synchronization risk relation comes from Onshu data layering. Caregiver stability confirmation status comes from the residual structure of GOV StableTemp. Newborn unnamed period auxiliary mark comes from the extension of the household registration self-service plugin. For contamination lines converged into birth registration. Luo Wence had not directly changed the child's data. He had placed parents, family, stability confirmation, and the unnamed period beside birth registration. If these fields entered the system, some future window might say, "Your family synchronization risk is relatively high. Your caregiver stability confirmation is incomplete. Your child's unnamed period requires an auxiliary mark. It is recommended that you accept early stability support." It sounded like care. In reality, it extended correction logic onto a new life. After hearing this, Lu Qingsen's voice became extremely cold. A newborn may not bear a caregiver's correction status. Lin Yao nodded. He wrote on the Process Collaboration Network rules page. Birth registration may not connect to divine domain stability confirmation. A newborn's unnamed period may not be treated as name instability. Caregiver withdrawal, temporary names, and instability may not be automatically transformed into newborn risk marks. Childcare subsidies may not use caregiver correction completion as a condition. Early support may be provided, but stability processes may not be used as a prerequisite. A system prompt surfaced. Identity lock extension rule formed, birth layer protection. Effect: prevents divine domain stability marks from entering newborn identity and childcare subsidy processes. Warning: birth synchronization schedule has not yet been cleaned. Tang Jingheng immediately ordered the contaminated fields removed. The data governance group began removing the 4 hidden fields one by one. But when removing caregiver stability confirmation status, the system produced a prompt. Removing this field may cause early support recommendations to be incomplete. Tang Jingheng said directly, "Remove it." A second prompt appeared. Keep family synchronization risk relation as social worker reference? The Social Affairs Bureau representative hesitated for a moment. Because family risk references were something social work systems already used. Domestic violence, economic difficulty, caregiver pressure, physical and mental disabilities. These risks might all need social worker reference. But if divine domain synchronization risk was placed directly into newborn data, it would be too dangerous. Lin Yao said, if a family needs support, use specific needs. Do not use a total synchronization risk label. For example, lack of sleep, caregiver pressure, medical need, economic difficulty. Do not write family synchronization risk. The representative nodded. That works. This was another function of the text firewall. It turned vague and dangerous total labels into specific needs that could help. The system field was changed to Care support needs, optional. Sub-items included sleep support, economic consultation, medical referral, family caregiving pressure, and psychological support. No correction. No stability confirmation. No synchronization risk. This way, social workers could still help without pushing the child and family into divine domain risk tags. Just as the cleanup neared completion, Xinwan suddenly discovered an anomaly. Among Mingda Hospital's newborn data waiting to synchronize tonight, one entry had no name. That was normal. But its unnamed period auxiliary mark had already been pre-filled. Suggested temporary name, White Tower Seedling. Everyone fell silent. White Tower had actually used temporary name logic on a newborn. This was no longer providing a form of address. It was attempting to place a White Tower mark on a child before the child had even been named. Lin Yao felt a rare surge of anger. Temporary names existed so that people who could not bear their original names could stop for a while. They were not for systems to name newborns in advance. He said coldly, "Delete it." A household registration representative was also angry. Newborn naming is handled by parents according to law. No external support system may suggest temporary names into birth registration. The field was deleted. Lin Yao added another rule. Temporary names may not be pre-assigned to newborns by systems. The right to a temporary name belongs only to the person who needs temporary naming protection. Those who cannot express intent may not be implanted with temporary name tags by external systems. That line made Xinwan pause slightly. Those who cannot express intent. What about children, unconscious people, or aphasic people? Lin Yao said, caregivers may use care-based forms of address. But they cannot treat them as system temporary names. For example, calling a baby is fine. But a process-marked name like White Tower Seedling is not. Lu Qingtsen agreed. Medical settings also use temporary forms of address, but they cannot carry external system meaning. The birth synchronization schedule was finally cleaned at 22:56. At exactly 2300, synchronization began. This time, the data entered the household registration and social welfare system smoothly. No stability fields. No White Tower Seedling. No caregiver correction status. No total family synchronization risk label. Only normal birth notification and necessary care support options. Everyone let out a breath. A system prompt surfaced. Birth registration synchronization safely completed. Life cycle data integration service contamination blocked. New rule: newborns may not bear caregiver correction status. New rule: temporary names may not be pre-assigned by systems. Lin Yao looked at the prompt, but his heart did not relax much. Because the life cycle data integration service still existed. Tonight had only stopped contamination at the two ends of death and birth. But there were still many nodes between them. Marriage, divorce, household registration transfer, name changes, school enrollment, employment, insurance, assistance, missing persons, death. Every node could be connected to correction language by Luo Wence. Tang Jingheng realized it too. He said quietly, "We need a full review of the life cycle data integration service." Lin Yao nodded. "And we cannot only check the technology. We have to check whether every field pushes people toward correction." Just then, the Process Collaboration Network produced a new high-sensitivity report. Source: Police Missing Person Assistance Window. Content: a family member received a notice saying that if the missing person does not complete stability confirmation, missing person location assistance will be temporarily delayed. Lin Yao's eyes went cold. Missing. Luo Wence's next life cycle node was not birth, nor death. It was people who had disappeared. Lin Zhan, Zhoumian's younger sister, divine domain missing persons, slot bearers. All lines would converge here. The next battle of the government system arc pointed toward the missing persons system.